Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Welcome to the November 9th, 2022 meeting of the Exeter Budget Recommendations Committee. Begin with introductions. My name is Bob Kelly. I'm the chair, as well as the chair of the Water and Sewer and Public Works General Subcommittee. Chris.
Hello, Chris Suter, and I'm the subcommittee chair for Library, Human Services, and Parks and Rec. Our topics of this evening.
Chris Zigmont, 22 Crestview Drive, and I am on the Parks and Rec, Human Services, and Library Subcommittee.
Good evening, everyone. Corey Stevens, Finance Director.
Good evening, Russell Dean, Town Manager.
Good evening, Chris Newport, first year on the committee.
Andrew Elliott, DPW Subcommittee.
Judy Rowan, Chair, Police and Fire Subcommittee.
Liz Canada, 58 Columbus, Library, Human Services, Parks and Rec.
Thank you. And we are also joined off mic by Melissa Roy, the Assistant Town Manager, Pam McElroy, the Assistant Town Manager. I'm sorry. Hope Giordino, the Library Executive Director, and Greg Bisson, the Director of the Parks and Rec Department, as well as Joanna Bartel, our minute taker par excellence. Thank you, Joanna, for helping us out. So, as Chris mentioned, this evening is going to be 3 different topics: Health and Human Services, Library, and Parks and Rec. And we will begin with the library, since that's usually fairly straightforward. So, Hope, if you would join us. And Chris, take it away.
Yeah, so thank you to my subcommittee members for all their help and time. And so, as the notes state, and I'm sure most, hopefully most people know that the library is governed outside of us and outside of our select people. And but we do, so there, it's state law that governs them, and they have their own board of trustees that sets their budget and approves it. And but they do meet with us, and part of it, I'd say, is courtesy, but also I know that they do listen to what we have to say and take that into account when they're making their budgets and working through all their things that they need to deal with to keep the library up and running. So, as every other organization, every other department was asked to make some cuts this year, the library did as well. They did the best they could, and hopefully my numbers are right, but I have $14,750 that they were able to cut out of their budget. That'll go across their public services that they offer. Make their cuts, kind of across the board type of things. Where they can, they will. So no more going on with the renovations. Those are all completed, and I'll let Hope, if she wants to talk about any, new and exciting things at the library, or if people have specific questions, or if my subcommittee has things that they'd like to add, or.
Well, we've been looking at how we save residents money, and what we do when you check out books is at the bottom it will tell you how much money we've saved for you that day or that year, and it's about $2 million plus by the middle of the year we've saved, because you don't have to buy books. And we talk about the things we do besides books. We have magazines. We have anything that we can think of that people would want. We have it physically and online. We have Hoopla and Overdrive, and if people are strapped at home, they can use Hoopla to watch TV, to see musicals, to read a book, to hear a book, children's programming, and it's free if you have a library card. So if you can't afford internet, the internet is in the library, plus it's out into the park, so it's 24/7 that you can get internet from the library if you don't have it at home or if yours isn't working. The other thing we do a lot of is people don't have printers, or their printer or their scanner stops working. they can come to the library, and we have printers and scanners that they can use. Besides being a nice place to sit, it's very comfortable. A lot of people enjoy coming, just sitting. The decks now that are covered, people come and have lunch there. Especially people who work in town, they might stop by, have lunch on the deck, and then just go back to work. We also circulate other things, like we have a telescope. We have cameras that so that people can try it, and if they want something like that, they could buy it. We are going to start circulating bakeware, so that if you wanted to make an odd-sized cake or a different-shaped cake but didn't want to pay for it, you could get that at the library. So we're always looking for something more we can circulate. We have seeds, heirloom seeds for the fall, spring, and in the fall they people bring in what they saved, and we give those away in the spring. So there's all kinds of things that we circulate. We have all types of programs besides book groups. We've been taking books and book talks to 277 Water Street. We go to Langdon Place, and we'll be going to Riverwoods in a couple of months. We do book talks with kids. We do book group with kids. We give them books so they can start their own library. We go to the rec camp in the summer and bring gently used books, paperbacks for all the kids there. So if it's anything that we feel that we can give to the community, that's what we do. We try very hard to listen what the community wants and give them what they want.
I don't want to interrupt. I think a question that popped up for me in our discussion that may come to other people's heads is like, well, the money that you have, how do you sometimes choose to buy these things, like you have like radon detectors, and I thought...
That was from the state.
Again, and so that's what Hope had told me, and if anyone's wondering, some of these items that might seem kind of oddballish, like why is the library buying this for the town? These are actually things that are given to the library that you take. Obviously, it's free, so they take them, and so
Well, we look for anything that the state. They also gave us carbon detectors, carbon ticks, to see if your appliance is working properly. So we have those. We're always looking for grants. We got a grant for the furniture that's on the decks. I'm working with Revision about whether or not we can have solar panels, and we're also working with Affinity, I think they are. They do parking lights, because our parking lights are old and they use a lot of energy. So we want to go to LEDs, and we're looking at a grant that might cover that for us to do that, so it wouldn't really cost anything. We're grouped together with other libraries looking into putting in an electric car station, because
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea. So we do those things. If somebody suggests something and it's something that we could possibly do, we do. And we take advantage of anything that's free. We have masks from the state that are free. We have COVID tests that they give us all the time, which we have out for the patrons. And anytime any idea of free money is out there, we kind of go after it, if it's something that we fit and it's something that we need.
Any other questions? Liz?
Oh, I was just going to say, the other program, being a stepmom of an 11 and 9-year-old boys, is the gaming systems that you all have that's covered by. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
We got a grant for video gaming consoles, Nintendo, Switch, PS5, and Xbox. And we have them for kids adults. We say 18 because of the value, but anyone can check them out. They should be ready this week. Anyone can check them out, and we have all the games to go with them. And that was a grant that we got. It was a federal grant that covered the cost of all of the games. We have, I think, 6 of each. 6 of the consoles of each, so that we can interlibrary loan, but we'll always have something available for our patrons. And the grant also covered games for all of these consoles. And one of the reasons we did it was we were reading that boys tend not to want to be readers, but video games, there's a lot of reading involved, and it actually keeps them up to the level or past the level that they would be if they were reading. So we thought, what the heck, video games.
Quick question on the, is that on?
I'm good, yeah.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, a comment. We're sometimes concerned about renovations and new construction and so forth, but Hope, when you presented what you wanted to have in the renovation, you were talking about bringing the library into the 21st century, and you had a clear vision of what you wanted to have happen in the library, how you wanted it to serve the town in the many new ways that you understood people wanted to use a library, wanted to have access and utilize the library in new and different ways. You had that vision, and I don't think it was necessarily communicated to the town as part of the renovation project, but to walk in the library now and see what you and the trustees and the staff have done is really very remarkable. It's such a dynamic place, and I could see what you were talking about, even though I didn't understand the vision at the time.
Thank you.
Bob, can I?
Sure.
Just because I'm new to the committee here, and I understand we do this as a courtesy, but we still pay for it, right, as a town. Mm-hmm. And for example, like salaries and things like that. You see, there's like close to 23 employees, some part-time, some full-time. Have we ever had like volunteers and things like that? A lot of towns do take volunteers.
In the past, we had volunteers. The state has made the rules for volunteers in libraries are very strict.
Okay.
And there are some things that volunteers cannot do, such as check out books, because all your personal information is there. But since COVID, we have not had anyone willing to volunteer yet. Mm-hmm. We've had some children, and they essentially help in the children's room. But adults now actually have to have a background check before they can help in the library, and a lot of people shy away from that.
Okay. No, I was just curious.
Yeah, we used to have volunteers all the time.
Yeah, I remember my mom used to volunteer at the library quite a lot. And then the other thing with just like, for example, I heard this just revision solar panel thing, and I know our town planner is trying to get this big solar panel project underway. Not saying that we shouldn't do both, but are we paying for the power too for the library, and wouldn't that be covered by this new giant project that's underway?
Taxpayers pay for the library,
right,
whatever it needs.
Everything, include electricity needs and LED lights and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. That's all I had from the budget side. Thanks.
Anybody else?
Just a quick comment. One of the things that I learned over the several years I've been doing library is that how inefficient it was before the renovations, how much it was costing us to stay subpar as far as, utilities, the heat and everything going right out the windows, and water coming into the ceiling, ruining things. It was just, you couldn't be more inefficient. So we were definitely throwing away money without doing this. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's a lot better. Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, just one last thing. Honestly, I think a lot of towns aren't blessed with the level of library services that we have. We're really, really lucky here. My only thing I'd like to work with you on is working with the communications committee to just get the word out more. I think, we even had a conversation about the telescope, which our family used the other day. But, there's so many great little services like that are really opening minds and opening ideas and opening eyes to whole new things that I'm sure people just don't know we have.
Probably.
So I think that's to really have people understand the value and benefit of the investment. I think the more, I'm sure you'd love to see it too, the more things are deployed and used, the better off we all are. So.
Definitely.
And then everybody sees the value. I know you said everything's listed on the website, but it's like
we try to get it on our Facebook page, and we have it on Instagram. But any way we can get it out to the public, we're for that.
Great. Anything else? Corey, do we have an updated health insurance number?
Yes.
Updated health is 251,295, 251,295.
Oh, that's the total benefits.
Yeah.
Got it.
Did you want something else?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I was spacing out on my request.
I've also got an update to 55233.
Public services?
Public services.
Okay.
This number is 189,854, 189,854.
So what is the, what's the background on that?
Library trustees voted on their budget after we had done our prelim budget.
Got it.
And it resulted in a change to that line.
It's actually 187. I think they only said 10,000.
Did they put back in some programs or what?
We were asked to take out 24,755.
Yeah.
So the trustees said that they could manage taking out 14,750 and keeping 10,000. What we're going to do is buy fewer books. Those are the only ways we can save money, is fewer books, and we may have to limit the number of uses per person of Hoopla and Overdrive, because those are really the only, and we'll probably cut back on some of the programs that we do, because that's a lot of money for us.
I'm sorry, that just wasn't the number I had. What is the number for you?
It would be the
just 187.
187,854.
This is just $10,000 difference.
Yeah.
Well, again, since that is decided on by the board of trustees of the library, we don't have any say in that, but we will approve a new total library budget. If you could update that for us, Corey.
Sure. And so just to confirm, 187,854 for library services.
Right.
For public services,
okay.
yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So the new total is 1,172,320. 1,172,320.
I'll entertain a motion for that amount for library.
So moved. Chris Suter.
Second, Judy.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Hope.
Thank you.
I'm definitely one of those people that are saving money, so, share with everybody. I never do, books on tape. I haven't yet. And then I'm dreading tomorrow because we're going to New York, yay, but we're driving and I hate car rides. And I was thinking, how am I going to get through this? I said, the library has audiobooks. Holy cow. So I just started downloading a couple audiobooks and didn't have to,
Hoopla and Overdrive, yes.
Yeah. So
it's the only way to go.
That may save me and my husband.
Thank you.
I have maybe for the members of the public as well, and for me, I keep hearing, because I'm new to the community, I keep hearing cuts. Everyone has to cut. Is that because of inflation? Trying to not raise the budget too much?
So originally, when we got our preliminary budget in tow, it was about a 5% increase overall, which is substantively more than we've had in the past. And so as we started this process, we went back to the departments and had them all sharpen their pencils and try to come up with a list of reductions off the top of the budget. And that's really what you're hearing about in certain narratives here, is that they've already taken some money off of the top.
And that's necessary, I think we've heard, largely because of salary increases and inflationary type pressures, more so than just wanting to spend more, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think that there's some legitimacy to that, yeah.
So not always, the town's not always in this, we have to cut every year type mode?
No, we've been managing to get our budget as a percentage from the prior year. We've been managing to get it in a good frame, but we work hard to get it there.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I just wanted that context just because of this.
Great.
Thanks.
It also provides stability for people in the town.
With the tax bills.
Right, the tax bills from year to year.
So Pam, we'll do Welfare and Human Services next. My glib attempts at humor aside, Pam is actually the Senior Executive Assistant for the town and the Welfare and Human Services Administrator.
She's also a magician.
Helps Russ out and Melissa out quite a bit with just administrative organization for the town. Does a great job. Thank you, Pam.
What page is this one on?
This is on page 24, top of the page.
Thank you.
All right. And one thing, I know we have a couple new people, and first of all, thank you for being, for joining our committee, because I know it's not always exciting, but I think it's super important, and don't ever, well, it's exciting when I'm in charge. Just wait. Fireworks are coming.
There is that.
Yeah. God knows what I might say. No, but I also don't want anyone to ever apologize, say, I'm new, so I don't know this, or, please just ask questions, because, a lot of times there are things that, we don't know, so don't ever feel bad, because we all just kind of get thrown into this when we come in, so I think it's great when people ask questions. So. All right. Welfare and Human Services is a very simple department. It's a very challenging department, but very simple. They do very straightforward things. Pam runs this. Not all of her time, but a chunk of her time is dedicated to this. We didn't have any suggested changes to the budget. We were still really impressed with all the challenges out there that we're able to get by, and I think such a lean budget. And I know if you read the notes that I provided, that it's from Pam working with all these other agencies and state, county, just to take advantage of whatever's out there that might be able to service our residents before we have to go into our own pockets to do that. So. I just want, if there's any comments from my committee or questions.
The only thing I'd ask, only just for the public that gets a chance to watch this, is probably, I'm going to guess a lot of residents aren't even familiar with the depth of what we do for some of our citizens and to support our town. I'm wondering if you could just give us a high-level overview, for example, of organizations that you work with annually and how that process works and what that support means.
Sure. Obviously, during COVID and now somewhat post-COVID, it's been very difficult. There have been a lot of people who have been in need more than normal. So I've been working with the state and the county on the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That was through Southern New Hampshire Services. That was federal funds that were given to the state, and the state, the state sent those funds to the community action programs. The Rockingham Community Action Program is part of Southern New Hampshire Services. So the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which assisted with rent, electricity, and heat, was through Southern New Hampshire Services. So I would have people who needed assistance with rent or heat or electric visit that site first, because those funds were available in the beginning when the program started. They could pay up to 18 months of rent or heat or electric. As the program progressed, they decided to change that, that they would do 3 months at a time. So every 3 months, if someone was approved, they would receive that funding for 3 months, and then they would have to reapply. As of October 21st, that program ended. So there is no rental assistance program anymore through Southern New Hampshire Services. Through the New Hampshire Welfare, Association, the local welfare association throughout the state, it was discussed that towns would then need to pick up where Southern New Hampshire Services left off. So anyone who is homeless, who was put in a hotel by Southern New Hampshire Services, is now the responsibility of each town. And that is difficult because hotels are very expensive. If someone was paying $1,200 or $1,500 a month in rent, they became homeless, went to Southern New Hampshire Services, Southern New Hampshire Services put them in a hotel, and now that program is over, now welfare has to cover that. So hotels can be upwards of $5,500 a month in comparison to $1,200, $1,500, $1,700 a month for rent. But there are no apartments available. There are no rentals available. So we do have to pay those somewhat exorbitant amounts to house people.
And the beds are just not there for the shelters.
Right,
just
right, yep.
Not there. It's so hard to get somebody a bed.
Right.
It's
so
ridiculous.
That's one of my prerequisites, is if someone comes in and is homeless, they have to sign up for a shelter. They have to be put on the wait list. If they refuse to be put on the wait list, then I tell them that we can't help them. Because we do need to follow some protocol to make sure that the town isn't sustaining this person for the rest of their lives. You know, we need to make sure that they move forward and get the programs that they need to move forward to get themselves back on track. And shelters and other programs have those services to help them get to where they need to be, whether it be finding an apartment for them or getting a job or something like that. Another one is Exeter Housing Authority. The Housing Authority's list for elderly housing is years long, as well as the Section 8 vouchers, years long. But they do need to get on the list because we just don't know when their time could come and there may be a place for them. So those are just some of the programs I've been working with. Another one is the Homeowners Assistance Program. And that one was very exciting because not only did it help homeowners with their mortgage and electric and heat, but it also helped with taxes, water, and sewer. So what I did was I got that information together, brought it down to our tax, water, and sewer department, and it went out in the mail with every tax, water, and sewer bill. So if someone was having difficulty paying their tax, water, or sewer bill, they could apply to this program to have that taken care of. And we did find that quite a few people took advantage of that opportunity, and we were able to get, their taxes maybe caught up or their water, sewer bills taken care of for them. So it was really a great program. That one is still going on right now. That one hasn't ended quite yet. On a regular basis, I'm sorry?
Going back to the hotels and the funding that you guys have for that, for the homeless, is there any chance you think, well, you wouldn't know, sometimes things get taken away and then they come back. I don't know if there's any scuttlebutt about maybe a new program coming. And then the other question is, do you have any idea what we might be in for as far as that bill this coming winter?
So, with elections that just happened, there's always a chance of a program coming back or maybe a new program coming into effect. We just don't know. But right now, we just have to deal with what we have. And that, it's sort of like that when COVID hit. We're just steering the bus as best we can, keeping it as straight as possible, trying to avoid the the potholes and the huge bumps in the road.
Yeah.
We're doing our best.
Oh, always, yeah. So do you, I guess, if everything's a status quo, any idea how much that might impact your budget if there's no aid?
Well, surprisingly, I don't understand why this is. September's numbers were huge. I could not believe how much assistance was needed in September. That usually has to do with the closure of campgrounds. There is an in-between time when campgrounds close and winter rentals open. So that's, I'm sure, part of it. But October's numbers had gone way down. October, the total paid out by the town was just over $3,400. We haven't had numbers that low since April. But September, the town paid out almost $15,800.
Holy cow.
Right. So if you balance those 2 months together, if you average that out, it comes out to similar monthly numbers. So we just never know. We just have to roll with it. And I also, you had asked about other outside agencies that I work with. Anytime someone comes into the office requesting either rent or hotel or electric or car repairs or child care or anything that they may need, I reach out to other agencies to see if they can assist with that. And that's not to say that the town is putting it off on them. What I do is ask if they can help the town, maybe make a payment. If there's a $1,000 payment that needs to be made, will they split it with us? And that seems to work out very, very well. They're very willing to help.
Just a question, so I'm making sure I understand this right. The 2022 actual was 47 when we did this back in August, so we've now spent another 15, another 3. So we've already exceeded the budget for 2022. Still have another.
Yeah. So
2 months to go.
The welfare budget is the only budget in any municipality that is allowed to go over budget.
Oh, good.
By law. By law, we have to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Maybe a generic question, maybe for the town manager, maybe a different committee, but so, I mean, I lived in California for 4 years before we moved back here, and housing there is it's the single greatest problem in the whole state. It's becoming a crisis there. So, coming back to the Seacoast, I was shocked at the housing prices here. It seems to be becoming a crisis here too. So, is the town doing something, or is there anything that can be done about affordable housing? Because I know some of the mountain towns out west and the California communities are doing a lot. Incentivizing accessory dwelling units and, trying to incentivize. Is that something that's being looked at in particularly the seacoast of New Hampshire, because it's kind of out of control right now?
Yeah, so we have a housing advisory committee in the town that looks at all of those issues and is working diligently to review our zoning in the context of creating more housing opportunities. But it is a challenge. And right now we have a project on deck, Tom Monahan's project on Epping Road, that is going to add 224 units of housing to the town's stock, and a percentage of those, I think it's 20%, will be affordable units, so workforce housing essentially. Exeter is actually known for its housing diversity. We have over 1,000 manufactured homes in this town. We have co-ops. We have condos, apartments, multifamily housing. So we actually have in this town more housing diversity than you see in a lot of the towns around us. And so part of our I guess part of our crusade has been to try to get other towns on board with creating more housing opportunities and not just sort of leave it all to Exeter. But we're very active in trying to create more opportunities for housing in Exeter.
I appreciate it, because I think what you see in California is there's homeless people with good jobs. They just can't afford rent if it's $3,000 a month or whatever it ends up being.
Russ and I attended a housing summit in Concord just this past month, and so the whole state does realize that there is a problem and that it needs to be worked on. So that is happening, and welfare was well represented at that meeting.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the info. I appreciate it.
Yeah. The other challenge too is there's some things that have to happen at the state level, to be able to be implemented at a local level. And I not most recent information, but last I heard that the incentives sometimes for developers just aren't enough to build that affordable housing. Plus, there's sometimes pushback from communities. But as far as I know, Exeter actually has more than their fair share of entry-level housing, if you will.
Any other questions? Judy?
I'm just looking at the historical and both the direct relief 55079 rent and 55541 hotel, and it looks like the historical is higher than the actual up to August of this year. Has there been more spent in those two line items to bring them up to the historical?
So like I mentioned, there was a rental assistance program and a mortgage assistance program. So it was expected that clients would apply for those state or federal state funds before coming to the town. And it was like that throughout the state, that any welfare organization was allowed to send them to that program first.
Mm-hmm. But since the program was ended, it looks like the 2022 numbers are lower than previous years. So
year to date through September, we've spent out the combination of those two budget lines. 46,000 is the combined budget. We've spent 46.5.
I see. So that brings it.
Yeah, I have some updated numbers on my schedule here. So that brings it right up to 46.5. Yeah, between the two.
Oh,
between the
together.
two. So yeah.
Okay.
Pam, on the burial expense item 55025, it just it says the note says it was raised $2,000. What was it before?
So historically, we had a budget of $750 per need for burial or cremation, and the New Hampshire Local Welfare Association looked at that number and realized that that was not realistic. So each individual case is now up to $2,000, and that did go before the select board, and they approved that.
And then what was the other $1,000 in that increase? Do you know off the top of your head?
That would be line 55077. That's direct relief heat.
No, on 55025 burial expense, the budget was $3,000. Now you're requesting $6,000.
Right. So
and the delta is $1,250 from the $750 up to $2,000.
Right. So each individual case is $2,000. So if we had 3 in a year, that would be $6,000.
Okay. So it's per individual case.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. See, this I think is one of the interesting things, it's kind of sad and dark or whatever, but it's still really interesting that I never would have known about this kind of thing, that a community, would take care of something like that, that there was no one able to do that, if they were alone and there was no family, that the town takes care of things like that. So it's a lot. It's a lot that goes on in a town that, we just all take for granted, or doesn't cross our minds at all. So.
And the funeral directors as well, partnering with the town. That's been one of the issues, is that the 750 was such an underfunded piece of that service, that it really needed to be adjusted.
Yeah.
But that was statewide, so it's all welfare agency or municipal welfare agencies within the state.
Liz?
Pam, I think I remember from our meeting talking a little bit about the Wentworth Trust, and could you just speak a little bit about what that is and how it works, that a referral would be made, or that sort of request would be made? Just because it's not reflected on here, but I think it's an important in the community available.
Yep. So Wentworth Trust is a trust that I can request assistance from. And the way that works is rather than Wentworth Trust paying, say Unitil is the request, an electric bill is a request, rather than the agency paying Unitil, the town pays Unitil, and Wentworth Trust reimburses the town. So sometimes the numbers can look a little funny. Corey and I have been through that because in a way it's almost considered revenue, because it's being paid back to the town rather than being paid directly to Unitil or to whatever landlord or something like that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and how do you decide what gets requested from Wentworth Trust? Is there a process for that?
Well, I usually look at the request. I try to look at the numbers for the town for the month and say, how is this budget looking? Because I'm trying very hard to think about the taxpayers and use as many of the resources that we have available as possible to try to stay within my budget. And yes, it is the only department that is allowed to go over budget, but I don't want to go over budget.
Thank you.
So I try to contact any agency to help out, but Wentworth Trust is fantastic. They will they'll cover a lot of things that others won't.
Is this the one that's only for women?
There are two. So Wentworth Trust prefers that it be something for women, but if there are children involved, I've actually had them assist with dads that need help. It's not just single moms out there. I've had a lot more single dads coming to the office and requesting help. We had one in particular with two little boys who was homeless, and we got them into Crossroads, and they were able to go through the Crossroads program. We got them an apartment, and the town was also able to assist with their security deposit, so they now have a home back here in Exeter. The children were able to stay in their Exeter schools even though they were living in the shelter. They were there for almost a year. And Russ remembers when I told him, the dad came into my office almost in tears just to say thank you. He wants to thank the town of Exeter for taking care of him and his kids. And that's not the first time that's happened. I have so many people come in who are so grateful to the town of Exeter. So I wish I could share every story, but it's a confidential department. So it's very difficult not to share this. It's very stressful, very, very stressful. When someone comes in with a tragedy or with something very scary, they're beside themselves. It's, fight or flight for them right now. And we work through it. One of my favorite sayings to people is baby steps. Even baby steps move you forward. It takes more of them, but it gets you there. So let's take the baby steps, and it's going to take a while, but we're going to get you there. So that's been working well, and they appreciate that because it's overwhelming. To try to take steps that are too big is too much, and they can't do it. So we work slowly, and we get them there. So thank you, Exeter.
For Mr. Chair, just for the record, I want to thank you for the representation you provide for our town. You acquit us very well, and your management of this is outstanding, and I think it speaks very well for you and the town, and I'm glad you're able to take care of our fellow citizens like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's also nice to hear that Wentworth Trust is expanding a little bit and not just saying it has to go to women,
For the most part, they prefer that, but every now and then, if I explain a situation, and WomanAid is the same way. Yes. WomanAid most usually will only request to have women, but they will assist otherwise.
Great. Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome, Jim.
Corey, could I get the updated benefits total? There is one?
Yes. New benefits is $6,901, 6901.
Thank you. And the total welfare budget?
$84,806, 84806.
I'll entertain a motion for that amount.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Chris Sigmund and Liz. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
It seems like such a relatively small sum for the impact it has.
Exactly. Agreed.
It's huge.
Well,
thank you, Pam.
We on the Seacoast are very, very lucky to have so many organizations that are willing to help. There are welfare agencies up north. Russ and I heard about one of them who they don't have the resources that we have with other agencies. They don't have a robust county that we have, and they went over budget drastically. I seem to remember Russ kind of gasping when he heard that.
It's part of the presentation that we had when we were at the seminar, at the presentations the other day. So, yeah, it was eye-opening just to hear stories about other places that just don't have that backbone that we have with resources. So, it's out there.
Well, that's a great segue into the Human Services Funding Committee. Speaking of all those other organizations, so like Pam said, that she does, always, reaches out to other service agencies, nonprofits, et cetera, to say, can you help us with this? And in turn, the town also does give an opportunity for agencies that meet those basic kind of human needs of, clothing, food, shelter, things like that, medical. And people can, once, in the summer, they can put in their application, and there's a committee that reviews it. I'm actually on that committee, and as well as Sherry and Cammie, and we go through the applications. Also, like, if anyone wants to dive in deep on the website, everything is listed. So you could go through each and every, all the applications, all their financials, all that stuff. So, but with that being said, I also had sent out the the committee is recommending for this year's funding, along with a very brief description of the agencies, and because every year somebody asks about the agencies, and I'm I draw a blank, you know, when put on the spot. So the one thing is, as noted, is that it's a little bit lower, and that's simply due to the fact that two of the larger organizations merged, and so we could only consider one application since it is now one agency. So that's why the number's down a little bit. But and like Pam said, these are all these almost every one of these agencies are agencies that she works with. So what I, you know, which in some cases is a very small request in funding, goes a very long way when leveraged.
A lot of the agencies actually pay out more than they receive in grants from the town of Exeter.
Oh yeah, I can, like, for example, I don't have the numbers with me, but the Exeter Area Charitable Foundation, I'm on that, and I recuse myself during when we go over the grants, but our organization's given out over $1 million, thousands of dollars go to Exeter kids every year, and direct funds to the school, year after year after year after year. So it's certainly well over $3,500. I can guarantee you that. So, but if anyone has questions about that program process, the amounts.
Yeah, just a sort of a background. A while ago, a number of years ago, we would, much to our detriment, I think, debate the list here, which was sort of counterproductive because 90% of us had no clue as to what these organizations provided and all of that. And Chris has really stepped up and worked with her group so that the vetting and the analysis and working with Pam and seeing what the real needs are is done for us. And the list, we've always tried to stay around $100,000. That has sort of been our benchmark, if you will, over the last 10 years or more that I've been around. So we're consistent with that, and suffice it to say that there's some really smart people that have really dived into this, and it's a good list, and thank you all for your work, and especially you, Chris, is my left hand here. Thank you for being the spokesperson for this as well, and Pam for working with her. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's certainly it's a task, and we've got it down, I think, to a really good routine now. So we grind through it, but there was initially a lot of work and good work, and I was honestly honored and happy to be a part of it. But it's certainly something that should be looked at on its own, and given that time and consideration, and then presented that way. Just. I know the organizations deserve it.
Andrew?
Just a couple of questions. So what's the subcommittee for this one? Just so I know the name of it.
Human Services Funding Committee.
Okay. And then I remember at one point a lot of these things got put into warrant articles in terms of it was all citizens petitions for all of these things.
Right.
When did that change? Thank you for that, for not making me vote on every single one of these things.
Was it 5-6 years ago, maybe? 7?
Maybe a little bit longer than that.
Like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
Well, for the same reason, we now you're relying on 6,000 people to do. I mean, we just didn't know the information that these people do, so we just put it right into the budget.
Totally appreciate that. So this is the Human Services Subcommittee, and there's an application on our website because I got a couple of other nonprofit organizations. Is it just for helping welfare, this group? Because there were a lot of other nonprofit organizations I thought that sometimes snuck their way into those.
No, basically, if it's an organization that touches Exeter, touches the residents of Exeter.
Okay.
It doesn't have to go. It does not go through the welfare department.
Okay.
So welfare and human services are two different things.
Okay.
Human services has to do with the granting of funds to the agencies, and those grant payments go out quarterly. So I take care of that. I take care of that part of human services, and then welfare is direct relief to residents.
I understand.
And one of the toughest things in that first year was we had to go, all right, what are our guidelines? Who do we fund? Because there's so many great nonprofits out there. There's tons of them.
Yeah.
But if we just said nonprofits that help Exeter residents or work with Exeter residents, I mean, it would blow us out of the water. So, we narrowed it down to any, things that really help our residents primarily with, that basic human needs of, medical and heat and food and child
We're
care.
talking human services.
Yeah, human services.
So that was a question at one point. I think at one point there was a question, regarding SPCA.
Yep.
And considering this is called human services, we decided that.
You try to throw an E in there and make it humane services?
Okay, thank you. I understand now.
To Andrew's point, is this on the packet on the website, on the town website? These brief descriptions of the agencies, is that included?
Not that, no.
Okay. Maybe that would be something we could approach after budget committee or after budget session or whatever.
Yeah, thank you for that list and those descriptions.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
It's very helpful.
Pam, Human Services doesn't have the same requirement as the welfare budget, correct, to spend?
Right, so...
there's no laws.
There's no overspending of the budget because we have contracts. So once the budget is approved, I send out agreements to all of these agencies, and they sign the agreement, and they are granted that certain amount of money that is listed on your sheet. So say, let's see, Annie's Angels is granted $4,500. So I'll send Annie's Angels an agreement, they'll sign it, send it back, and then they will send quarterly invoices to me. And I will send the invoices and vouchers to finance for quarterly payments.
Great.
And I keep track of that as well. So if an invoice has not been received, I contact the agency and say, can you please send in your invoice? So there is no going over budget in this department, in Human Services.
Gotcha.
Right.
That budget is 100% exact. Unless, of course, we don't get the invoice, which happened last year. So we had a little mix-up in, I think it was January.
If no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion for the Human Services funding amount of $98,610.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. And thank you, Pam, for your wonderful work.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, I definitely recommend if anybody has some curiosities about the agencies to go on, because the applications are there in full, and you can see, how many residents that they serve, or what percentage of their services went to the residents, some of the things that they do. Because we go over that carefully. And you can volunteer. We have spots available. All right, Parks and Rec. Greg is here. Thank you so very much. Definitely love any input from my committee members if they have some, but it's like all the other departments, everyone was asked to, look for ways to make some cuts to their budget, which they did as best they could. It's so straightforward. There's very little, for me to say. I don't like reading things to people, but,
The only comment I'd offer after our meeting was I was just really impressed with Greg and his team's continued creativity with resources provided and getting things done and stretching things out, and especially given the amount of turnover you've had, and things like that, just to, from the consumer side, the people that use your department and your services all year long probably never felt it. I'm sure it was stressful and hard to do, but it felt and looked seamless from the outside, so I appreciate the work.
Well, thank you.
A quick question. So is the Henderson Swayze Town Forest part of your
That is not. That is conservation.
Conservation, okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of town to be cared for with just a handful of folks, so.
Yeah, we manage 56 acres, just alone on like town properties. Think of town properties as around this building, town hall, outside grounds, the train station. I mean, there's a lot of different properties that we manage. I could only imagine the vast mileage of bike trails and that we would have to manage if that fell under us. But no, that falls under conservation and volunteer efforts, really.
Any questions on the recreation part of the budget, which is on page 24 at the bottom? While we're waiting, Corey, could we get an updated benefits total for rec?
$125,437, 125,437.
Thank you. And a total rec budget?
402,244, 402,244.
Any comments or questions for Greg? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for the $402,244 recreation budget.
So moved. Chris Suter.
Zygmunt, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On to parks.
The story in parks is like the story in rec. It's, again, they're being creative, they're just working with what they have and, doing lots of great programs for the community. And we had no suggestions for changes, but certainly would love to hear if anybody's got questions about that budget.
Could you just expound a little bit on the contract services line? Just, it looks like the notes sort of touch on various things.
Yes.
But if you could just
one of the things that, as Chris Zygmunt alluded to, we've had a lot of staff turnover, but the rationale of increasing contract services are twofold. One, we are now implementing a work order software that will be able to forecast for us and really break down per park what each park costs and inventory management. So that has been implemented, and we look forward to using that and being able to present you data as the years go on, like, all right, it cost X amount of dollars to maintain the recreation park. So you can actually see dollar per dollar what goes into it. But really, it's Bob, it goes down to what we really are not able to get to having a two-person staff. Everyone that owns a lawn likes to aerate, seed, water, which we didn't water as much because the water ban, but to maintain proper turf makes it easier on our part. So one of the things we are implementing is trying to do more overseeding, more aeration. Our parks, as you all know, since COVID, have been very well popularized. I mean, people go out there and they participate and they get out there. So just helping us achieve the standards that parks should go into. So that really what culminates in that increase, because we've been very fortunate in dealing with some of our contractor mowers that came in. They're very generous in giving some bids, but at the same time, their inflation is hitting them just as hard. Their salaries are up, obviously fuel, so those prices are all going up, and especially, for instance, fertilizer and seed. If everyone didn't know, like the wildfires out west last year devastated the grass seed crop. So when you go to buy grass seed, instead of buying a $10 bag that used to be $10, is now $35 to $40. So, I mean, you have a number of things that have just escalated, and so that's why we're requesting this, because 56 acres and 2 guys, even with assistance from mowing, is very difficult, and we have a hard time getting to things, but we don't have the specialized equipment that some of these contractors do have.
Right.
I only have like an acre at my house and it looks like crap, so.
Land baron.
It looks like
so are the janitor services just for rec buildings? This wouldn't be part of the DPW maintenance?
No, that is actually, the janitor is we keep the pool building, the outside bathroom open as much as possible. The moment it becomes frost-free and it's not going to freeze, we open it up. And it's just getting to that, and it's a very minute part of it. And during the summer, obviously, we offset that with the rec revolving fund when they're in there 7 days a week. But when we have to have someone come in there every other day because those bathrooms are well used, unfortunately, this year we had to close those bathrooms early because there is the sewer pipe leading to the bathhouse is collapsing. So that will have to be addressed in the spring of 2023. So we avoided having to shut down the building totally this summer, luckily. But yeah, that's what those janitorials, because once the pool closes, we have obviously no revenue coming in. And those are well used for soccer and the playground. The number of parents that do not like to use porta potties with their kids is astronomical, but we keep them out there anyways because we advise people, please use the porta potties. The areas surrounding a lot of our parks are littered with poison ivy. So,
wow, really?
Yep.
Also sounds like my yard.
Need some goats.
So will those repairs that falling under public services or not your department's budget?
No, we'll be working with Jeff and probably using some of our pool maintenance line next year. Out of the rec revolving line.
Okay.
And that trailer that you guys were going to buy last year, you bought that, it looks like?
We bought it. It works out great, Bob. My staff really likes it, especially when we have to transport large items as well as the mowers. So right now, we have the mowers out because we've been using them and doing a lot of leaf cleanup, but it was a tremendous asset to have something. And for us, where storage is limited, especially in this town, having some place where we can winterize everything and park it and leave it in our own yard, right, so we can consistently go in there and monitor it and make sure it's in working order in the spring.
And a big time saver for you guys. I have to unload and load every day. Like I said, 2 guys, you can save that step.
It saves 15, 20 minutes every day. And that 15, 20 minutes could be a
couple hours a week.
Yeah, and could be mowing Gale Park.
Great. Any questions for Greg on the parks budget? Corey, can we get an updated benefits total?
Yep, 24,180, 24,180.
And a parks total?
220,949, 220949.
No further discussion or questions. I will entertain a motion to approve that amount for the parks budget.
So moved. Chris Suter.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. And not that we have to vote on it because it's cumulative, but just do you have a new addition for the parks and rec total budget?
Yes, 623,193.
Thank you. Okay. That will do it for the budget portion. Do you want to talk about the?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just introduce the CIP request for the Parks Department, and we won't discuss it at length tonight, but if there are any preliminary questions that you would want Greg to be prepared for next Thursday, that's what we'll talk about.
So again, we had something put off, but we did have, and this has since changed, so I talked to Greg about this. This is like a discussion. It's not going to be a discussion.
No.
So initially,
this is on page 12 of the CIP.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
My bad.
So initially, last year they asked for $100,000 to make for the 10 Hampton Road building upgrades, fixes, whatever, to get it ready to be used. And that was approved. And then I saw in here, I was like, whoa, $750, what happened? And so then Greg explained to me is that they had applied for a grant for $750,000. Had to go in here, but it was these were grant dollars that would pay for all these expenses. And if the grant was not funded, they did not get it, that it would not happen. It's not a $750,000 request. They revert back to the $100,000 that was approved. Fortunately, I spoke to Greg a week or so ago, and then we did not get the grant. So so this will not be something for the voters to vote on. That the department is not asking for $750,000. They're going to use the $100,000 that they've been given, and I believe they're continuing to look for other sources of funding. Which, if Greg, if you want to talk about that or anything else.
We're looking for alternative funding. One thing that we're keeping our eyes on is the governor did announce that he would like to see a fund set up for community centers to apply. It is a matching one, so we're waiting for the criteria. I don't think it was being pushed very hard with election season coming up, so hopefully now that November 8th is over, it needs to go through the finance committee and the executive council before it gets instituted, and then CDFA would be the ones that would be the grantor and overseeing the grant process. So there's still a lot of obstacles to go, but we're looking for this alternative funding to help it. But we would plan on moving forward with $100,000 to get us in there, just to give the public. It's hard, obviously, if you're doing home renovations, it's hard to find a contractor. So finding a contractor as well has been difficult to do the minor renovations that we need to get in.
And the grant that didn't come through, is that something you can apply for again next year, or is that a one-time?
We can apply for it. There's it's CDBG. We can apply for it again in January. But the $750,000 was slightly elevated due to the fact that it was there was COVID relief funds in there for HVAC to COVID mitigation. It would go down to its usual level of topping $500,000. So, but there's a lot that goes into CDBG where we would have to definitely make sure we have our T's crossed and our I's dotted before we move forward.
Yeah, those aren't easy grants to get, but they do. Someone gets them, and CDBG is Community Development Block Grants in the state of New Hampshire.
That's not the dance club in New York.
Not that I'm aware of, but
Do either of you have what is currently in the fund, the Park Improvement Fund?
Off the top of my head, give me 1 second, Bob.
Well, all right. I think there was a question.
Or comment, or?
Well, he's looking that up, but just a procedural thing. There's a list of 7 projects here, all of which probably cost more than $100,000. And I see that it's basically going to, the funds that we are giving are going to that backlog of maintenance items.
13.
So just procedurally, why wouldn't this be like 7 different capital improvement requests rather than one time ask for $100,000? It doesn't seem.
Well, it's not a one-time.
Well, then why isn't it on the budget as a line item with a number?
Since it's an improvement fund, I get Russ can go over the logistics, but it's an improvement fund, so it has to be voted
every year
by the voters every year. See if they agree with the concept.
Yeah, this is a capital reserve fund that we established a few years ago to put maintenance money toward the parks. So it's a series of different projects that are funded out of the fund. And the select board are the agents of the fund. So when the projects come up one by one, Greg brings them to the board and the board votes to release the money from the fund. So mechanically, that's how it works.
So it's like the sidewalk fund and some of these other ones?
Yes, it's similar in that regard. We have a capital reserve fund for sidewalks as well, so functions similarly to this.
And it also gives us the flexibility if a project would run from, instead of encumbering funds, from running from one year to the other. For instance, the Park Street Common Playground was a multi-year, we started the process in 2022, but finished it in 2023.
And that came out of this fund? That
came out of that fund.
I see.
Yeah. So current balance, Bob, is $13,502.97. But there's going to be a memo in the packet. We're requesting funds to do some tree trimming around the lower tennis courts. That was brought to our attention that they're low-hanging branches and leaves are just falling in there and shading it. So we're trying to alleviate that liability and get it off there. But unfortunately, the topography of around the lower tennis courts, we need a tractor or a tracked lift to get in there, and Seacoast Tree Care is like one of the only ones that has it. And we would be doing it in the winter when it's least impactful on the use of the park and the trees themselves.
Is that to expend the last of the $13,000?
No, it's $6,600. So there'd be another $7,000 left in the fund.
And the $13,000 is basically, so every year we got, well, prior to last year, $50,000, I think.
No, we got $100,000 last year.
No, last year, but prior to that.
$100,000 every year so far.
Yeah.
So it started at 100.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And we basically spend it every year on projects.
Yes, like for instance, and I actually brought it up, this year we worked on repairing there's a major leak filling the pool. Right. We fixed that pipe, we fixed the concrete, we did Park Street Common Playground, there's sports fencing we bought, benches and tables. You've seen probably if you've gone to Townhouse, beautiful tables, and there's some benches around the tennis courts. Water fountains, which we had a snafu with supply chain issues, but they'll be up and going next year. We did irrigation at Townhouse Common. ADA matting. ADA matting was, ADA matting, which if you've been to Park Street Common Playground, it's one of our truly ADA compliant playgrounds. We put a ramp in at the lower tennis courts, so we're finishing up that project, so that will be now ADA accessible. We did a concrete pad here at Townhouse Common with that new gazebo, if anyone's seen it, where our Tune and Fork Tuesdays were. Installing the water fountains, because as we know, we're short-staffed here in town. So, I mean, there's a number of little projects that this board had kind of challenged us to do smaller, low-hanging fruit and spread it around town, and that's exactly what. And to your point of that list is a lot more than $100,000. We're hoping that we can work with contractors, get the price down, do more bang for our buck, and where we can use inside services with Public Works or our own guys in the parks, we will. Like one of the things that I'm attempting to do this year, because our new parks foreman has a long career in aquatics, that we're going to hopefully do the in-house painting of the pool ourselves. So we're going to attempt to do that. So that should save significantly. So.
And does the Parks and Rec committee, do they help you guys come up with the list each year of things they want to attack with the funds that you have?
Yes, yeah, and especially, and we'll also listen to like some public feedback, like for instance, when I mentioned the benches, with a number of people using the tennis courts, either pickleball or tennis, they're like, well, there's no place to sit. We heard that call. We got some nice, they're recycled plastics, so they're going to last forever. Nice recycled plastic benches, and we have about 6 or 7 of them around there. They're not cheap, but they're going to last a long time.
Yep, great, thank you. So we'll be discussing that next week as part of our CIP review. Any follow-up questions for Greg at all? We have 2 meetings next week. Tuesday on the 15th. We'll be discussing the last department budgets, water and sewer. I will be doing that with Ton and with Chris Newport. And then on Thursday, the 17th, we'll be discussing CIP and the general wrap-up of the budget. So early in the week, I hope to send out around a list of what we'll be discussing for CIP, much as I did last year. So everybody can sort of go through their book and earmark the various justification proposals for the CIP requests. Any other comments or questions about proceedings this evening? If not, we are adjourned until...
There are a few items that you guys haven't voted on yet.
Yeah, I saw those. I was going to do those Tuesday, but I guess...
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make you aware.
We have time. Why don't we round it off to 8 o'clock? Yeah, why don't we do that? I did see random like cemeteries and stuff like that, and a couple of other...
Were you talking about like the bands?
Yes.
Yeah.
Give us the page. Yeah, let's, where do you want to start?
So right below Parks and Rec would be other culture and recreation.
Miscellaneous.
All right, so on page 26, other culture and recreation, budget request level funded from this year of $18,500. Any questions? I'll accept a motion to approve that amount.
No questions, no comments?
Anyone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And for special events, including the brass band, veterans activities, and fireworks, again, level funded from this year, 2022. Any questions or comments? I entertain a motion for $15,500 for that budget.
So moved. Judy.
Thank you. All those in favor? So the total remains the same. And then down at the bottom of 27, under debt service, we have miscellaneous, massive budget of $4.
This is getting out of hand.
I'll entertain a motion. I'm assuming there's no discussion on this one. Hold on. Entertain a motion for this one.
So, Zigma.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And vehicle replacement, we will wait on that until after CIP discussion. And cemeteries at the bottom of 27, $1.
Is that just a placeholder?
I would imagine. Has there been any expenditures on that in the last 19 years? I don't think so.
No, but we do own Winter Street Cemetery, so in the event that we have some emergency repairs or something along those lines, that's why we keep that dollar there, just in case.
Okay. Entertain a motion for $1 for cemeteries.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So we'll do vehicle replacement on Thursday.
So, Bob,
Yes.
we have capital outlay total as well for $6,487.
Right. Does, since there is a purchase, a specific purchase, is there anyone, do you know anything about this, Russ, the details of it, or is this?
Of the equipment?
Yeah, the
That's
data.
that is the townwide, the GPS system that we use in our town vehicles.
Got it.
It's a subscription, so we pay per month.
Are we adding devices? Is that why the budget's gone up on that?
We do try to add a few every year.
Okay.
There's also an escalator in the subscription.
Right.
Year over year.
I can't imagine it's 50% though. So there must be a purchase in there somewhere. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion for the capital outlay budget of $6,487.
So moved.
Thank you.
And I think, Bob, on the leases.
Those are existing?
Those are existing.
So it's not proposed leases as well? I haven't looked at the detail of it yet.
We can wait and make sure, but
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that it's new.
Yeah, rather than hold people up.
Yep.
We'll deal with that Thursday. I've got it noted. So, yeah, Judy and Liz, Judy moved and Liz seconded the budget for capital outlay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And I think that's it, right? Except for vehicle leases and then
Correct.
water and sewer. Excellent. Excellent.
Hey, Bob, can I add one thing real
Sure.
quick? That's what I really like the last two paragraphs on the sheet here. I think you wrote that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important to point out to the,
Yeah.
I hope this is available to the public.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to, I didn't, and these are my personal opinions, I'm not speaking for the committee, but as we talked about, things that are, costs that are increasing, that are out of our control, and being asked to make cut the cuts. And again, I know that we've had some bizarre things happen in the last few years, but one of the things is, we can't count on these things not happening again. And if our town and other towns, we're not alone in this, we continue to just every year have to make cuts, it's going to affect the quality of life here. And once you start doing that, you affect the desirability of your community. And if people start moving out, that'll affect all the values that we have in our homes, or could affect our home values. And those values go down, those numbers go down, our tax revenue goes down right with it. So I think it's really important that we look at ways to generate revenue as a town, and that's with, whether it's some additional commercial development or homes. It's not, you can't put everything on the commercial, as part of our tax base, and there's only so much land that can be developed for commercial. But if we have land in town that is zoned residential that can be developed, and I have a lot of faith in our boards here and in our staff at the town level that quality development, quality homes can be built and should be encouraged. Some development in our town.
Well said. Thank you. And with that, we will adjourn till Tuesday, November 15th at this location at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.